kind of like play it by ear. Pun intended. I think let's not worry about that for the first video. Of all the things that I'm worried about, the headphones are probably like the least. The fact that I'm wearing a white t-shirt and I look like crap. I know. the before the before and after. Sure. Okay. That's okay. Okay. All right. So, yeah. Just pretty sure. Not that one. Yeah. Okay. So, where should I start? Okay, so my name is Daniel, and I am talking about kind of getting on testosterone replacement therapy, why I did it, what my experience has been so far, and why I think you should get your testosterone levels checked. I mean, not you in particular, but men. Well, I mean, who knows? Yeah. Yeah, so, let's see. Okay, so funny story. So I've been going through a divorce. Oh. So, let's see. So I'm going through a divorce, and I have been spending a lot of time watching YouTube videos. And I think I've always kind of been interested in like steroids. Is just kind of a thing that I was curious about, and I remember watching like one of the X-Men movies where Hugh Jackman basically had gone, like in the first X-Men movie, Hugh Jackman was kind of like a bad casting choice for like his body because he looked like a skinny dude, and in the comics Wolverine is just really, really, really muscular. He's also super short, but really muscular. And so I forgot which one it was, but there was one of the like Wolverine movies where he shows up and he's just insanely muscular. Like, he's really, really, really muscular. And he basically gets more muscular with, I would say, just about every movie. And no, even in the Old Man movie, he's like, if you look at him without his shirt in the Old Man movie, he's still huge. Like, he's bigger as an old man than he is in the first 2 or maybe 3 X-Men movies. But the weird thing about it is by the time he hits like the movie where he's ripped, he's like in real life he's an old man. He's in his like late 40s, and for men, your testosterone production decreases as you get older, and so it's really hard to do that without let's say a little extra help. And so I always kind of like was like, he's got to have been juicing. And then I think it was like Days of Future Past where he takes off his shirt and he's got veins just bulging from everywhere. And that was the one where I was like, holy shit, he's on steroids. Like not just a little bit of steroids, like he's on a lot of steroids. And anyway, so I came across this YouTube video of a guy who was talking about what the steroids that he thought that Hugh Jackman took for his role. And okay, so the name of the channel is called More Plates, More Dates, and which totally makes it sound like the guy is just a run-of-the-mill fuckboy. And in some ways he actually is. Like that's kind of his background, is that's what he was when he was like in his like early 20s. So I watched that video, and then there was another one about Chris Hemsworth, who's another guy who went from like looking pretty normal to looking just insanely muscular for the Thor movies. And again, like there's a level of muscle that is almost impossible to achieve naturally. Like basically you top out because there's a rate at which you can't build more muscle without tearing the old muscle down, and so you just you can't get bigger. You can so he did that one. Right. But even for like anybody who's natural, like there's like upper bounds for what people can do naturally. And I know like you and I have talked about like different regions of the world where you have guys who are, basically hunter-gatherers who just look shredded. But even those guys, like, they're not big like Chris Hemsworth and Thor big. But anyway, in like their body composition, like they have a lot more like muscle around their core, and so they don't look like this. They look like kind of this. Anyway, so I found those two videos really interesting, and so I started looking at his other videos. And one of them that kind of wound up being the aha moment for me was a video on the effect of basically taking testosterone for guys with normal testosterone levels. And basically it was like 25 milligrams, 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams, and like 125 or something. It was a kind of a graduated scale. And the guys in the lowest category actually wound up losing muscle mass. And the reason is because if you start taking exogenous testosterone, so basically if you start injecting testosterone, your body shuts down its own testosterone production. And so the guys in the first category actually wound up with less testosterone overall, and so they wound up being like kind of testosterone starved. And anyway, so he went through like the body composition for like different levels of testosterone, and basically like the low end of the testosterone spectrum looked like me in high school and college, and also my dad our dad in high school and college. So basically, almost no like muscle, but very 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 skinny, with basically a belly still, and I was really skinny, like in high school, and in college for that matter. But I like never, like in my entire life, I never had a six pack, and which is just weird, like looking back. And I always thought it was just kind of like genetics. But basically, it's like old man. It's like old man body. So like old men, if you see old men, they're super skinny and they have a belly still, and but that's basically it's basically what you look like when you have low testosterone. What do you need, sweet?
To log into Seesaw.
Seesaw? Don't you have the Seesaw login?
No, I don't. Oh.
She can't hear you. Catherine says hi, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so the Seesaw login is here.
I can't even get into home. I don't know how to get into home. I don't know how to
Okay, wait. Can you get into the can you get to the Seesaw website?
I could.
You could.
I can search up Seesaw, and I did. Or just Seesaw.
Student. You're a student. Okay. Report card assessments. Seesaw learning code. Save file. Okay, stop. I'm a student. Text code. Okay, here we go. LEKP DKJI LPVX. Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, so so after watching that video, I was like, okay, well maybe I have like low testosterone, but like I'm on the lower bound of normal. And but I started looking into it. Like I started reading like Wikipedia pages about low testosterone and testosterone replacement therapy, and and there was one other thing. The More Plates More Dates guy was talking about coming down off of like high levels of testosterone when your body's not producing enough testosterone, and specifically I think it was like when your body doesn't have enough testosterone, your body doesn't produce enough estrogen, and for men. And he was basically like, yeah, when your estrogen levels dip too low, you just feel like, well, your test levels and your estrogen levels dip too low. He was like, you just feel like crap. And I was like, wait a second, I feel like crap all the time. And so I started looking into the like symptoms of low testosterone, and it was like low energy, like lethargic, lack of motivation, depression, and I feel like there was like one other one, and I was like, holy crap, like I might actually like have low testosterone. and and I've basically been depressed at least my entire adult life, but really I mean, probably before that, but it got way worse. I want to say in my early 20s, and so I've been on antidepressants. I spent 2 or 3 years basically cycling through maybe 20 different antidepressants, trying to find something that worked. And 2 of the antidepressants, at least 2 of them, like caused my weight to spike like a lot, like 30 pounds over 6 weeks, and another one was like 20 pounds over 4 weeks. It was insane. And so like at the heaviest I was like 215, maybe 220, up from like at the end of college I was 145, and then like 155 like maybe immediately after we had kids, like after Sophie was born, so that's 2009. So motivation, like, gosh, well, so I'm not sure how much I want to talk about that, just because it gets into Laura's and my relationship probably more than I want to, on something that I'm going to make public. But suffice to say that like it was a frustration for her that I didn't have more motivation and energy and I guess drive, and yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Sure. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Well, so I think the big thing is that my diet didn't change when my weight spiked. Certainly not substantially, but yeah, we cooked more meals than we ate out a lot, because we just didn't have the money to eat out. Um, and so Laura, my ex-wife, likes to she likes to run and go for hikes, um, and I like to play soccer, um, but the weird thing was that I developed a taste for carbs that, like, I've always liked cereal, but like I, it was, I had like a new compulsion to like eat cereal. Like I would eat cereal like all the time. Um, but it was like it was a very different, like it was qualitatively different in the kind of craving it was. And uh, yeah, so it was weird. And again, like the rest of my lifestyle didn't really change much. Actually, now that you mentioned like the sedentary lifestyle, like actually, so for part of that, I was actually working doing like manual labor um, at the what do you call it? Um, no. The this was the like water lab for the civil engineering department. No. This is after Acorn. This is but basically, so it at at CSU at Colorado State they have a they call it like a lab, but it's all outdoors, and they basically build giant they call them flumes, but basically giant water slides. But then instead of like having a slide, they put rocks in it or grass or whatever they want to test. They want to test erosion properties for these different things that they can put on levees and spillways and stuff like that. And so, but anytime you want to build a new one of these water slides, you kind of have the water slide already built, but then they'll put rocks or grass, and so they actually have guys with shovels shoveling a bunch of rocks onto these giant flumes. And so that was my job, or part of my job. But it was a lot of manual labor, and and like the rest of my life, I didn't put on any muscle. So yeah, and yeah. So I mean, I think comparatively, yeah, I wasn't super sedentary. And then like after that, I did boxing. And that's actually about when I was like at my heaviest, was when I was doing boxing. But yeah, I was huge, and it was actually like a weird. My boxing instructor was like, I think he was kind of like weirded out because I wasn't losing weight, and so he was telling me that I needed to go running. But I was really like. I was almost too heavy to run without like blowing out my knees. Anyway, yeah. Well, I still thought that I was like within normal bounds. I thought I was just on the low end of normal. But I managed to. So I asked my psychiatrist, who manages my my depression meds. Yeah. Man. Anyway, so I asked my psychiatrist, who manages my depression meds, if I could get my testosterone levels checked, and I kind of figured, worst case, if I come in like normal. Like I'm a single guy, and so if I need to like juice up, like to be beach pod ready, then at least I'll know what my baseline is. But I expect it to be like lowish, and then I got okay. So first of all, I didn't get my levels back. I had to call them. Because they were like, oh yeah, we'll call you with your results within a couple of days, and they didn't call. And so I called them, and I was like, hey, I was told that somebody was going to call me, and they're like, oh, your stuff is online. Didn't anyone tell you like how to check that? And I was like, no. And she's like, oh, well, I guess I can look them up. And so, but while she's like doing that, I went and like Googled around and actually figured out how to log in. And my test levels were low. And so basically, the like official normal range is between 250 and 1100, what they call nanograms per deciliter, which is just, that's the concentration. But for a guy my age, the average is somewhere between 400 and 500, and the 250, that 250 number, that's the lower bound, that's normal. That's like average for an 85-year-old man. So that's where that number comes from. And so mine was 197. So I don't know, however many like percent lower than an 85-year-old man. So like if they were an 85-year-old man, they would be like, oh yeah, your testosterone's too low. But for a 34-year-old man, it's basically like it's half what it should be. So I'm like freaking out. And but the funny thing was, well, this isn't funny, but the, I guess, frustrating thing was, I was freaking out, and the nurse was like, because I'm like asking, hi, what are you doing? Do you want to come sit with me? All right. Annie. She's eating chocolate. Yeah. So I'm freaking out. And I'm like, so what's the next step? Like, do I have a follow-up scheduled? And the nurse is like, well, no. Like, why would you, like, your doctor just did that. Like, he's not a general practitioner, so he can't review those results. You would have to schedule something. And I'm like, okay, like, but like, isn't there some sort of like flag in the system if I come out with like 85-year-old man testosterone levels? And she's like, oh no, like, he just did that as a professional courtesy for you. Like, there's no, like, she was just dumbfounded that I would like even be disturbed by that. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I do want to schedule a follow-up for these, like, testosterone levels. Whoops. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I do want to schedule a follow-up for my testosterone levels. And she's like, well, you're going to have to, like, schedule something, like, it's going to be a week. Like, trying to talk me out of it.
No,
Yeah,
nurse right there.
yeah, you see her? And I'm like, okay, well, like, is there any way I can get in, like, sooner than that? And she's like, no.
Daddy.
A week.
Daddy.
That was the soonest anybody could see me.
I got
To review the results that I had, like, that I had to ask for.
Chocolate.
So I had to ask for the test. I had to ask to see the results. And then I had to ask to have a doctor review the results. Like, just look at them. Like, not even, like, review them with me, but to just have a doctor look at them at all.
Dad.
And what? There is chocolate on your face. I can see that. So then, so I wait a week. No, hey, if you're going to sit with me, you can't put your feet on the computer.
I didn't. It's on the table.
That's fine. So I get in, and the doctor basically takes one look at the results, and she's like, she doesn't actually have any experience like looking at the results, and so she's like literally like looking at the chart for what's normal for men, and she's like, oh yeah, I guess those are low, and she's like, well, what do you want to do about it? And I'm like, well, I mean, I would like to get that fixed, or like whatever the next step is, like figure out why they're low. And she's like, well, yeah, you would need to see an endocrinologist for that. And I'm like, okay, why can't we do that like first? Like, isn't if my hormone levels come out low, like, hey, you need to be quiet, or I'm gonna put you down. Do you want to hear Catherine? No.
Can you get a wipe?
A wipe? Yeah. You want to go grab the wipes, and you can bring them to me. I'll help you.
A bag of wipes.
So, right. And so then she told me that, oh, she's like, you should be able to get in and talk to him this week, and if you can't, call me back. Like, call me back. So I do, and it's a month. It's a month out. This is the soonest they can see me. And so I call them back, and it's the same nurse, and she's like, and so I just tell her, like, hey, that's what, this is what the doctor told me. She said, call back if there's, like, here.
Thank you. Can you wipe my face for me?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's clip for me. Technique job.
So I call them back, and I'm like, hey, it's going to be a month. Is there any way that you guys can you call the endocrinologist and see if they can get me in sooner? And it's the same nurse, and she's like, no, like, we can't do that. And I'm like, look, hey, no licking me. And I'm like, look, I mean, because by this point, I'm actually a little bit upset, because I'm like, I've been on these antidepressants for almost 10 years. And nobody has ever thought to, like, check my test levels, which, okay, like, whatever. But now I've, like, checked my test levels. I have all of the symptoms of low testosterone, and I have low testosterone. And nobody, like, is even, like, nobody cares. And I'm like, I was, because basically, like, I have, like, been finding it hard to, like, function, like, get out of bed in the morning, and I'm in a master's program, and a dad, and, like, basically,
Can you make a tent for me?
a tent. Maybe in a little bit. I'm talking to Catherine right now. When I'm done talking to Catherine, I'll make you a tent.
Thank you.
So I'm like, hey, I want to get this fixed, like, yesterday, because it's because, like, from my perspective, I've basically been waiting 10 years for this. Like, I've been struggling for the last 10 years, and I basically figured out what the problem was myself after having, at least 3 different psychiatrists, a therapist, and basically, like, I'm just getting told, like, no, we don't have any, like, there's no procedure for one thing. Like, there's no, like, oh, we have something in place for this, we know what we're doing. It's like, this is outside of our, like, experience or anything we've ever seen. And the weird thing is, like, I don't feel like it's actually that uncommon. And so I right, yeah, but I think yeah, I mean, hey, you need to be quiet. So I finally get in to see the endo, and it's a month. And I think in the meantime, I do see my my psychiatrist, who's like a remote guy. And he told me something really interesting, which is that like, testosterone levels were really downplayed in his like, in med school for him, for psychiatrists. It was like something that he was like, this was something that I asked when I was in med school, and they were like, no, it's not a thing. Like, and he was like, keep me posted, because, like, this is actually really interesting to me. And I was telling him, like I wish somebody had tested me 10 years ago, because, like, some of the stuff that I've taken, like, some of the meds that I've taken have far worse side effects than testosterone. And anyway, so I finally get in to see the endo, and it's kind of the same thing. Like, he's not super engaged. He's kind of like, yeah, maybe you have low testosterone, but your levels were taken in the afternoon. We want to take them in the morning, and because your testosterone is highest in the morning, and that's the time you gotta take them. And so he was like, and we'll probably need to take 2 more blood samples. And I was like, wait, so if this blood sample comes back low, I still have to take another blood sample, so you need 3 blood samples that are low. And he's like, he kind of, like, backpedaled at that point. And he was like, oh no, like, if this one comes back low, then we'll just, like, do it. But he actually had, like, another panel scheduled, that was actually, like, had a bunch of stuff that wasn't on the first panel. So, like, he does normally do 2 panels, like, just because. But so sure enough, my panel that he took at 9 a.m. was, that came out at 2:06, I think. And yeah, but the thing is, like, those levels, so the levels that are on the metric, those are median, like, those are averages throughout the day. So the 250 is supposed to be your average for the day, not your like, highest. It's supposed to be your highest, like, serum. That's supposed to be your average. So even if it had come out at 250, that still would have been lower than an 85-year-old man, because that would have been my peak levels would be 250 and versus an 85-year-old man who has average levels of 250. So, but the other thing was, so I got those back, and again, I had to call them to get them to review my results. Like, they said it was going to be a couple of days, hey, I told you if you had to sit still, otherwise I was going to put you down. So you're going to sit still? No. Where's my phone? Do you want to go get my phone? So then he finally calls me back. Oh yeah, so like because my results, he's like, it normally takes a week to get your results, and my results were available like on that Sunday, and so I'm like, oh well, it'll take him a couple of days to review them, and then I think Wednesday I called just to see, and I think it was like Thursday or Friday before they called me back. And so, but he calls me back, he's like, yeah, these are low, so this is what I'm going to prescribe. He tried to, this is one of the things that the More Plates, More Dates guy had said. There were actually a bunch of things that I learned through the More Plates, More Dates guy that I'm really glad that I learned, because because the endo would not have done them otherwise. And so one of them was he tried to put me on a gel, but I have 3 daughters, and you can see the smallest one is small, and she is always like in physical contact with me, like she's literally crawling on me, and the gel does not absorb, like the absorption is not like consistent, and so so she would potentially be absorbing testosterone into her system, which is a horrible idea. And I told him that I had kids. That was like one of the first things. And what? And he still tried to put me on the stuff, and so then I was like, hey, I have small children, so I don't really want to do
Phone?
phone is right here. I don't really want to do the gel because like they crawl on me, like literally crawl on me, and I don't really want my 3-year-old growing a beard. Yeah, no, seriously, like. And so he's like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. And but the other thing is, like, the gel, apparently it's really hard to regulate the dosage, because the absorption is not consistent, and so the More Plates, More Dates guy was like, for hormone replacement therapy, they will try to put you on the gel, and do not do that. He's like, the injections are way, way better, way more consistent, and like, he's like, basically like subcutaneous injections are by far the best, like least side effects, like least messy, everything that's what you want to do, because but the big thing is you get consistent dosing, so he prescribed injections, and it was an ester, so this was a frustrating thing. He's like, oh, there's this new like compound, and it has better better breakdown characteristics than other esters, and then I looked it up, and it's actually not a new compound. The only thing that's new about it really is that it's subcutaneous instead of, but that's because of the syringes, as far as I can tell. It's basically because they put it in an EpiPen, and not because, but the ester is chemically the same as the other. As the other ester. The ester's not new. So I think I've explained this to you before, but for posterity. So testosterone is like a hormone, and an ester is basically a testosterone molecule that has basically an extra molecule tacked on to basically slow the body, like make the body work to break it down into testosterone. And the idea is that it makes the absorption slower, and so the body absorbs it over a week instead of absorbing it all at once. Because otherwise you would basically need to do injections every day. And so this way you can, in theory, inject once a week and have it kind of like slowly progress through the week. Although in practice it still winds up being like you still have a spike at the beginning of the week and then it tapers off throughout the week, but it's not as dramatic. Anyway, and there's like 3 or 4 of these esters that were developed basically for this reason. But this one's been out for at least 10 years, 10 or 20 years probably. But basically the EpiPen is like makes, as far as I can tell, the EpiPen makes it $100 with insurance, not $5. But then, so like he's like, okay, I'll call in the prescription, and I had actually driven down to Illinois. So basically, I'm splitting my time between Wisconsin and Illinois, which is about 100 miles away. I had driven down basically to pick up this prescription, and so he said that it's like that he had called it in, and so I call the pharmacy the next morning, because this is like, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday afternoon. So I call them the next morning to see if they have it. They not only do they not have it, they don't have any record of it. So then I call the endocrinologist's office and talk to his nurse, and she's like, well, not only did he not call anything in, there are no notes that he prescribed you anything. So she's basically like, I don't believe you. And she's like, but I'll call him to see like if he meant to prescribe something or something like that. But he'd like gone on vacation. She's like, he's out of the office till next week. So, and I'm like, but with the kind of like thing that like, oh, like it'll probably be next week before we can get back to you. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, please try and get in touch with him. And so then I called her back the next day, still nothing. And actually the way that I found out that it had actually gotten fixed was not because anybody called me. It was because I finally went to the pharmacy on Friday morning because I had to leave to pick up the girls in Wisconsin, and I was like, I'm out of time. And they're like, we have 2 prescriptions for you, like the other prescription and then the testosterone prescription. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Yeah. And so I went into, I took it back to my apartment in Illinois and basically fretted over doing my first injection for a while because I don't like needles. and but finally did the injection around like 10 or 11 in the morning, and so this was my third injection. Almost exactly 2 weeks. Yeah. So, so I also take Adderall, and Adderall basically is nice because I have energy, um, which I think is not normally why you're supposed to take Adderall. I take it technically for ADHD, but what it actually helps with is just being able to like get out of bed and function like as an approximation of a normal human being. And so that Friday, I was kind of like wired, but that's just Adderall. And then I think Saturday was the first day that was different, and it was like really different. I felt good, and so okay. So something about me is that I have like tons of ideas. I'm a really smart guy, but I basically don't do any of them ever. Including like stuff with my kids. Like I have like all these like great ideas of things to do with my kids, and but I basically like am like I'm a night owl, so I'm like tired in the mornings. Like I don't get going until at least 10 in the morning. So like I'll wake up and like get breakfast ready and then basically go hop back in bed. Did you have a like cutout in did my audio cut out? What cut out? Like what was the last thing you heard?
That you make breakfast and then you hop back in bed.
Oh, okay. So like yeah, so basically I usually will make breakfast and then hop back in bed. And so Saturday was weird in that basically I forgot. I don't even remember what we did now, but I basically had energy for the whole day, and so we did like all the things. Like we made lunch, we made dinner, we made. Wait, did I even have the girls on Saturday? I might not have had the girls on Saturday. Actually, I don't think I. No, I did. I did have the girls on Saturday because I didn't. I gave them back to Laura on Sunday afternoon. So, but I'm trying to think what we did. I think the big thing was I had gotten a 3D printer and it had basically sat in pieces for at least a week, but probably more like 2 or 3 weeks. And I had basically been putting off writing my paper for my class for at least as many weeks. So I basically wrote a paper, put together a 3D printer, and then helped Sophie like start the setup for a Minecraft server. In addition to cooking and like cooking actual meals for lunch and dinner for 3 kids, and like entertaining 3 kids. It was for me. It was that's just insane. Like I could maybe do one of those things on a normal day. And so then Sunday was kind of similar. Like Saturday was a great day. Sunday was a good day. Monday, I think I did not sleep. I think the combination of having the testosterone and the Adderall means that it's even harder for me to fall asleep at night. And so Monday was just okay, but I got those back on Monday. Oh, and that was the other thing. Like, I basically negotiated a new placement schedule with Laura on Sunday. So then, I think either Monday or Tuesday. It must have been Tuesday. So I got the girls back on Tuesday evening, I think, and or Monday evening. Tuesday, we got up early, went to go get lunches for the week from the school lunches or thing, and then got the girls going with their school setup. So basically, they're doing all of this remote learning, which I had not been really a part of for the last several weeks. But I got basically all of that set up in the morning, and then after Sophie was done with all of her work, we worked again on the Minecraft server. And again, this is pretty. It's very atypical for me to have enough energy to do all of this. And then I don't remember where exactly, how much exactly my energy started to taper off, but it definitely tapered off towards the end of the week. And then last Friday, when I took the next one, I basically had more energy again for Sunday and for Saturday and Sunday. And then I actually wrote it down, but I want to say it was Tuesday or Wednesday. I basically hit a wall, and so basically, like I mentioned earlier, when you start taking exogenous testosterone, your body shuts down its own production of testosterone, and so you'll have a dip. And so that's what I think happened, was that my body had basically started shutting down, or had, I don't know, finished shutting down my endogenous testosterone, and so well, I felt like I felt before started taking testosterone, which is shit. I basically, it was extremely hard to get out of bed. It was just so I found it much harder to be positive about anything going on in my life, which, I mean, and in fairness, I have a lot of things going wrong in my life, but just coping with things is way harder, and so I just didn't want to face anything, even conversations. I had been having conversations with on dating apps and stuff, like girls that were interested, that I had a rapport with. I just didn't even want to even that sounded overwhelming, and they don't really want to talk to me. So just, it basically puts a negative spin on almost everything, and just felt like not completely hopeless, like, oh, like, life isn't worth living, but definitely less hopeful. um, uh, yeah, and then just like physical energy, like just like having the energy to get out of bed and do anything um, was just substantially reduced. I not it, but not like in a linear way. It was like there was a threshold, um, and I had dipped back under it. Like it's much more of like it was almost like someone flipped a switch. So and that's actually been, based on what I've read, that's kind of the way testosterone works, is that if you dip below a certain threshold, your body doesn't convert enough into estrogen, and so basically estrogen is what kind of protects your brain from getting depressed and feeling hopeless and a bunch of like, and there's also like, there's also weird symptoms of low testosterone that I have, like difficulty selecting words, and there were a couple of other things, but basically like difficulty like focusing on one specific task. But like, so I had a teacher in high school who described me as a tangential thinker, and then I had another friend who described me as speaking in ellipses, so like dot dot dot. And then like I have an aunt who, and these were all people who liked me, so it wasn't like people who were trying to be mean. But I also have an aunt who described me as having two speeds, slow and off. And again, like, she wasn't trying to be mean. She was just like, she was trying to be cute. And actually, like, yeah, I won't go too far into it, but she's actually been more supportive, despite like literally having cancer, than a lot of other people, including family members that I won't mention. Not you, obviously. But yeah, so I think I dipped back under the threshold, and I've actually watched a couple of men in their 50s who I think have basically dipped under the threshold. One being our dad, after the divorce, just like didn't recover like emotionally for, I don't know, 6 years. Whenever, and I mean, arguably he's somewhat recovered, but I basically have been kind of hounding him to get his testosterone levels checked, because even if he used to have normal testosterone levels, which I honestly don't think, I think he probably has always been somewhat low, but even if he used to have low T levels or normal T levels, his levels are probably low, just because he's almost 60. But and I don't think he has yet, but it's like on his to-do list. Anyway, so that's kind of, so I had like 2 days, 2 or 3 days this week that were kind of crappy. And there's one more thing that I actually kind of am mad at actually two things, but they're related, that I'm mad at my endo for. So one of them is, and you can kind of see, so I've been losing my hair for the past, I don't know, I mean, it's been going slowly, I would say, for the past like 8 years. but I think it's accelerated. Like, the divorce has definitely not been good for my hairline. But this was another thing that I learned through the More Plates, More Dates guy, is that because I had always thought that, oh, male pattern baldness is something like, oh, when we discover the cure for male pattern baldness, it'll be a big thing. And so I just thought that there was like not a lot of information out there. And actually, in some ways that's true, but in other ways it's like not true at all. And this is another thing, like Hollywood. So the Hollywood guys, you'll notice almost never go bald. If they start their Hollywood career bald, then they'll stay bald. But you even have guys who kind of like were going bald and like now aren't. And I kind of figured that, oh, well, that must be like they must have gotten hair transplants or something. And it turns out that there's like one hormone that is almost entirely responsible for male pattern baldness. And if you basically stop the body from producing that hormone, then you can basically stave off baldness and even, like, to a limited extent, reverse it for decades. So, like, instead of going bald in your 30s, you go bald in your 60s. Anyway, so the hormone is, so basically you have testosterone here, and testosterone breaks down, or the body converts a certain amount of testosterone into estrogen and a certain amount into another hormone called DHT. And DHT basically does a lot of stuff for, what do you call it? Puberty. So when you go through puberty, DHT has a lot of like roles to play, and it's an androgen, which basically means that it does the same things that testosterone does. It helps you build muscle, helps you retain bone mass, makes your testicles work, but it's actually a more potent androgen than testosterone. But it's really bad for your hair for whatever reason. And so basically, you accumulate DHT in your scalp, and it basically makes your hair follicles sad. And for some reason, the hair follicles on your head are different than the hair follicles basically on the rest of your body. So basically, if the hair follicles on the rest of your body are happy, then the hair follicles on your head are not happy, and vice versa. So the stuff that makes, basically, you have androgens that make you grow a bunch of body hair. Although technically it's called follicle stimulating hormone, but androgens stimulate the release of that. But DHT is one of those that stimulates a bunch of follicle stimulating hormone. But it also basically causes miniaturization. So basically your hair follicles on your head just lay down and go to sleep permanently. They're not technically dead, so you can kind of like bring them back. And that's actually what Rogaine is an antifungal called minoxidil. So if you buy like a spray can of for athlete's foot, it's got the same active ingredient as Rogaine, which is minoxidil. I actually have a spray can of like athlete's foot stuff. Because so there's basically a couple of different like approaches to reversing hair loss, and one of them is Minoxidil, what minoxidil does is it basically forces your hair follicles to be happy again. Um, but it only makes them happy for as long as you are taking minoxidil. And it doesn't actually address the underlying cause, which is the DHT accumulation in your scalp. And so basically, your DHT levels, your scalp DHT levels will continue to increase even while you're taking minoxidil. And so as soon as you stop taking it, your head will basically lose all of the hair that you like kept or even regrew with Rogaine, and go to what your head would have been if you had never taken it. So anyway, there is a point to me bringing this up, and that is that taking testosterone is basically will increase my DHT levels. And so I'm worried, because I'm already balding, I asked my endo, hey, should I be getting on something to suppress my DHT? Because it doesn't really do anything in adult men. Like, there's nothing that it does that you can't do with other things. And he was like, oh, well, we'll talk again in 8 weeks. And I was like, you don't want to take blood work sooner than that? Like, it seems like it would be worth knowing, like, how my hormone, like, if there's something going wrong, we would want to catch it before 8 weeks. And he's like, nope, 8 weeks. And I've, like, since learned that that's basically like what's on the back of the bottle for testosterone, is like, check the levels again in 8 weeks. But that's dumb. Like, that would be fine if you were like, so like basically if my hormone levels are already low at the end of a week, now they're not going to get higher. Like, my hormone levels are not going to increase with like taking more, like continuing the injections at this point. Like, so we kind of would be able to know now. And also there's no really good reason to not start finasteride or dutasteride. But I basically have to beg for those as well. Yeah. Right. 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 Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Well, so I actually, I thought about it, and I think I am gonna try and call them on Monday. But like when we talked, like that was the day that I had tanked, and I did manage to like make phone calls to several doctors, but that was like the extent of my productive capabilities for the day. But hopefully I'll still be like somewhat functional on Monday, and I can make some more phone calls, because I mean ideally I would like to get an endocrinologist who doesn't suck, or who at least is like somewhat sympathetic with like what I'm going through, because this guy was like, well, I don't give a fuck. Well, it's not that I want sympathy in the sense of like I want him to like validate what I'm going through. It's that I want him to like feel like, oh, your levels are low. That's a problem. Like, I don't want to have to be like telling him that it's a problem and that we should fix it. Like, because, yeah. So, okay. Okay. Well, that's actually fine because I think this is enough to send to Ben and let him edit it. Oh, well, okay. I'll see who gets back first. They can have the job. She'll be more sympathetic. Oh. Ben might also have untreated hormone problems. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, but I mean, this is the conversation that I was having with Katie the other night. Is that you? I don't know. Yeah, because basically because you have a spectrum that's such a wide spectrum that's normal, um, boosting you like figuring out like when when your levels are low is like tough. Um, mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And more than an order of magnitude. A grown up. Yeah. 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 So when your endo said that your pituitary gland is normal, that I was kind of like, how would like the only way to really like know that is to like have an MRI. Yeah. Right. Yeah. so cute.
Yes, it is so cute.
Annie. Annie's showing me a baby kitty.
Wanna see?
Okay.
Baby
Well,
kitty.
aww. Yeah.
I can't
I think
hear
we all
you.
want a baby kitty.
I can't hear. We can't hear her.
You can't hear her? Alright, here, I'll see if I can I'll switch the thing. But I think we're gonna stop the video now.
If you could set up a baby Annie cam later while the girls are
I can't see her.
Stardew Valley, that would be
See
cool.
her.
Because I would love to actually be able to see them while I'm talking to them instead of staring at the ceiling.
Oh, I see.
You're turning. You're
Okay.
squishing me.
Alright.
You're turning me.
Well, I can't.
Ow.
Silly monkey.
Thanks.
Okay.
Look, it's a baby kitty.
Alright, I'm gonna finish recording.